No, I'm good for whatever, man. How long have you been doing your podcast?
3 months.
Nice.
Well, Philly fam, I'm back.
Welcome. It's 4133 The Pod, and this is another episode. We got our boy Marc Farzetta in here, man. How you feeling today?
I feel fantastic. How you feeling, brother?
I'm doing all right. Hey, before we start, tell the people where they can find you at and how they can get in touch with you.
I'm in your closet. No. All right. So you can find me on YouTube at Farzy Show. You can find me on Twitter at Marc Farzetta at Farzy Show. You can see us on Instagram, all social media platforms. And yeah, that's where you can find me. I do a live show 6 to 7 every day. That's when the new podcast drops every day, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And yeah, make sure you check out the show and I find people in the chat as well. Like yourself, Smitty, and other good people. You also see us now on Jacob Media. We just started doing a simulcast on the Jacob Media YouTube platform as well.
Y'all go follow, like, subscribe. You got some good content. I'm usually there in the morning because I'm usually working, so I'm usually there chatting in. Hey, man, so we just signed the rookie today. How you feel about that deal, man? Is it a good deal? Did we play ourselves?
No. Here's the thing that I never worry about. And I know that the Eagles like to always get ahead of things and set the market as it would be. And this Jalen Carter deal is a great deal. I really like the pick of Jordan Davis, and this is a 10 times better pick than the pick of Jordan Davis. You're getting a guy who could play every down. You're getting a guy who you don't have to question as much as is in shape. With Jordan Davis, I mean, people have questions already about Jalen Carter and how in shape he can be. It was tenfold that last year. I remember talking to Gary Cobb, former Eagles linebacker, current Eagles analyst, and he was just talking about whatever you got to do to keep him away from Subway. Whatever you got to do to keep Jordan Davis away from Subway, you keep him away from Subway. No more Subway. And then for this guy, Jalen Carter, it's like the chip is there. It's on his shoulder. The chip is there because this guy is supposed to be, forget about being a top 10 pick and just squeaking in there at 9. I mean, there's talk about this guy possibly going 5 or 6. There's talk about him being the best player in the draft. I'll tell you this right now. If there's any talk, if there's even one utterance, one sentence hinting that you're the best player in the draft and you go at 9, you're going to have a chip on your shoulder. So I think this is a great investment by the Eagles. I think it's a great signing by the Eagles. And one thing I never doubt is Howie Roseman's ability to dole out a contract, because no matter what, there's always going to be some kind of loophole in there that if things do go bottoms up and it doesn't work out well, which I doubt, I think it's going to work out beautifully. Howie Roseman knows how to finagle his way out of it.
So I seen some interviews earlier about, I think it was DeAndre Swift, and he was saying that he didn't even know he was getting traded. He kind of didn't know Detroit was bringing in another running back. What do you feel about him in this Eagles offense and what he can bring to the team?
Look, I don't think there's any secret that the Eagles like to pass. They like to throw the football. Sometimes you won't find a good balance. Sometimes you'll go through spurts with Nick Sirianni. Sometimes you went through it with Shane Steichen where you like to air out the football. I think bringing in a running back that, unlike Miles Sanders, for instance, last year, I mean, Kenny Gainwell could do it to a degree, but it's hard to find guys like DeAndre Swift that can catch the ball out of the backfield and provide that safety route to guys. I mean, we haven't really seen that since the days of like Darren Sproles, for instance, in this offense where you could consistently see it. Miles Sanders had a flash of it his rookie year where he caught a lot of passes, but over the last few seasons, it really hasn't been a thing. And I remember going into last year, we were talking about the screen game could be coming back to the Eagles. Oh my goodness gracious, you could be seeing shades of LaShawn McCoy and shades of Brian Westbrook again. And you didn't see it. DeAndre Swift, I don't think there's going to be any uptick in screen passes, but the option, the best as it's been since the days of LaShawn McCoy or Brian Westbrook, I think those days will return when you do see the very few and far between screen. But on the regular, you're going to see him go out on wheel routes. You're going to see those passes out of the backfield to him, and he can get you those yards after the catch. And that is a great safety valve to have if you're Jalen Hurts. In the unlikely event that your offensive line breaks down, if your wide receivers, who, by the way, are pretty damn good as well, if they don't get open, you're going to have a nice safety valve right there. Plus, it also gives you the old adage of the thunder and lightning. If Rashad Penny stays healthy, you're going to have guys that can be that thunder, be that guy that can be that, ground and pound type of back, and be that guy that could be, just like his last name suggests, swift out of the backfield, and make sure you can provide that lightning characteristic for you. And look, you need running back, just like you need quarterback. You need to have a good backup quarterback. Every team has to have a good backup quarterback. You have to have a good stable of running backs. And the Eagles right now, especially with Kenny Gainwell already here, adding DeAndre Swift, seeing what you can get from a hopefully healthy Rashad Penny, and already having Boston Scott, I'd say you have solidified that running back room rather well.
So the Kenny Gainwell, now does he go to the third back?
I don't know, and I'm still thinking about that because they're not making this trade if they don't think DeAndre Swift becomes the number one guy. The thing that's interesting is that the Detroit Lions traded away DeAndre Swift because they drafted a running back very much like DeAndre Swift when they brought in Jahmyr Gibbs. So now DeAndre Swift is coming to a Philadelphia Eagles backfield that already has Kenny Gainwell, which is very similar. I mean, they both had the same 40 time at the combine, so they're both very close in how they approach the game. Their styles are very similar. When Miles Sanders was here in Philly, you had a guy like Kenny Gainwell as more of a pass catcher while he was here, so you're bringing in a very similar guy. So I don't know where Kenny Gainwell goes here. I assume that, again, it's all about having that depth, of having that very stout running backs room. But I also don't put it past Howie Roseman to tinker with this lineup a little bit more. So is there another trade in the works? Are you going to try to get something else for Kenny Gainwell? Because another thing I won't put past Howie Roseman is trading a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick swap for DeAndre Swift, and then him turning around and potentially trading Kenny Gainwell for like a 3rd-round pick. Like, I wouldn't put it past Howie to pull off a deal like that. I doubt it. I don't think that happens. I think what ends up happening is you have Swift, you have Kenny Gainwell as the guys that you can rely on to stay healthy, and then you have whatever you can get from Rashad Penny, because it's not like you had to give up a lot to get him. You just had to spend some money there. Right. So I think they just want to make sure they have that good stable of running backs, and that's exactly what they've assembled to this point. I think it's going to be up to training camp. I think there's going to be an honest and open competition to see who's 1 and 2. The biggest X factor in all of this is whether or not Rashad Penny can stay healthy. We're talking about a guy who's played, over the last 3 years combined? He's played 1 full season worth of games. Smitty, do you got confidence in that guy? Because I don't got confidence. I got confidence that he's talented.
I think I seen the other day that he's played 28 games in 4 seasons.
That's not good. That's no bueno.
Most games in a season is 10.
Yeah, it's not good. That's not a positive, unfortunately. So, hey, look,
he got 2 single-digit seasons too, where he played 5 games in 3 games.
And
so
3
that
games
tells me a lot. Like, whoa, I'm kind of scared. Like, you could go out there on week 1 and just be done. You got Kenny Gainwell though. I'm cool with Kenny Gainwell and the DeAndre Swift though. I wasn't cool with Penny and Kenny Gainwell though. I agree. I thought it was a bad situation.
Yeah, I thought they were going to draft a running back, not Bijan Robinson. I thought that would have been exciting, but I thought they were going to draft a running back later, like maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. And actually, when they moved out of the 2nd round and got those picks back to back in the 3rd round, I thought they were going to consider a running back there. But Howie is just smarter than all of us and made the deal.
Well, there's a lot of people, they're scared of the linebacker situation. Do you see us acquiring Isaiah Simmons or Patrick Queen at this point?
I don't. I think this is going to be something where you're going to be seeing guys on the undrafted list. You're going to be seeing guys like a Alex Singleton. You're going to be seeing guys like TJ Edwards. You're going to see the Eagles continue to fill spots like that. And at the same time, you're going to be crossing your fingers that Nakobe Dean is every good of what we expected him to be when you brought him in out of Georgia. You're going to be looking at the same thing from Nick Morrow, see what he can bring to the table as a linebacker. Like, even by the Eagles standard, Smitty, even by the Eagles standard, this is a low bar they've set for the linebackers, because we know for over a decade they have not 2 decades they have not really valued the linebacker position here in Philly. But even by that low bar that they have set, this is below that bar. In just in terms of depth right now, I like Nakobe Dean. I think reassembled with his Georgia Bulldogs. Now there's even more of them on this squad. I think you're going to be seeing a productive year from Nakobe Dean. The potential is certainly there for him to be much better than TJ Edwards, much better than Alex Singleton. I like both those guys more than most. But Nakobe Dean was drafted to be a linebacker here in Philadelphia, not just a special teamer, not just a leader on special teams, which he emerged as last year, but he's supposed to be a linebacker here that can play with that speed and play consistently either on the inside or the outside. So he's going to get that opportunity this year. Nick Morrow is going to have that opportunity this year as well. So it's all about how it comes together in training camp, but I don't see them making any huge investment at the linebacker position.
I'm very high on the Sidney Brown pick. I think he could be day one starter. Do you agree with me that he could take somebody's spot? I don't know who's the other guy. I don't know if it's Reed Blankenship or if it's Terrell Edmonds or Justin Evans, but I see Sidney Brown on that field with whoever else is next to him.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And I think it's him and Reed Blankenship. I mean, Reed Blankenship, hey, look, man, I mean, I'm not, what do they say in basketball? I'm not doing the Paul Reed victory tour just yet, even though this year you probably should. But I'm on the Reed Blankenship victory tour. I mean, think about this. You go out there, no one really knows much about you. You really earn your final roster spot in the final preseason game. You really show up and you play all out in that game, and he played great. Then you get the opportunity to get some starting reps with some injuries there. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, of course, being the obvious. You go out there, you pick off Aaron Rodgers. Not a bad start to your career. You make a huge stick in a playoff game on Saquon Barkley. Like, this guy came to play. I love his attitude.
The Deebo Samuel fumble.
The Deebo Samuel fumble, another one. Like, this guy is just ready to party. And I think when you look at who they brought in here in this draft, I think Brown absolutely has an opportunity here to be that starter. And I think he is the favorite going into it. Edmonds, he had some things to work out in Pittsburgh. Didn't really work him out, unfortunately. Evans, a similar thing. Got to see what you could get from him. But I think the Eagles drafted Brown to be a starter in that secondary next to Reed Blankenship.
I can see Terrell Edmonds playing more a linebacker role, where he's kind of in the box. He come in on some special packages, maybe blitzing. Maybe, if we getting killed by the run, you need an extra tackler. You could put him in the box. I don't see too much coming out of him.
I don't have high hope.
Olamide's the key is what is your opinion on him? I've watched some tape. It's iffy because he progresses year by year, but what is his progression with an offense like ours? Can he take Quez's spot? Could he move Quez to the fourth, or do you see somebody else coming in possibly, or is it Quez?
I think you have your 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here, and I think Quez Watkins is the guy that he's hunting for as far as being that number 3 wide receiver in a pretty damn good wide receiving room. The other thing to think about it is, how are you going to develop the relationship and the chemistry with Jalen Hurts? Because obviously you have a guy like Quez Watkins who has developed that type of relationship with Jalen Hurts already. They have familiarity with him, but never know, man. Sometimes you get that new toy, and all of a sudden that new toy starts balling, and you could start really connecting with that guy and realize, oh, wow, this new toy is better than the old one. And the old one in this scenario is Quez Watkins. I think Quez Watkins is a better receiver than what we saw last year. I think what we saw last year was a lot of obvious mistakes, fumbles, drops, the speed, them getting away from him in the speed game as well. I think that's something that really hurt Quez Watkins last year, most notably that word trust. But he's going to get an opportunity to do it. And I think Jalen Hurts has invested in him a little bit. But I think it's really close right there for Zacchaeus to come up here and be able to handle his business and really establish himself as that number 3 guy. Because Quez Watkins, no pun intended, did not run away with anything. It's not open. It's not a open and closed case. It's still very much open. The best part about it is, regardless, whoever is the number 3 guy, you're going to be looking at a guy that is going to have to win a pretty intense battle in training camp, in preseason, and during the first couple of games of the season, because those 2 guys want to make sure that they're upping their status level at not just a number 4 spot, but also a number 3 spot, solidifying that role for themselves in this Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts slinging it to them.
I told somebody the other day, I was having a little rant on my live. I told them it's only 9 spots on the offense right now that I could say are locked in. Outside of running back 1 and wide receiver 3, those are the only 2 positions I can see an open fight. Everybody else is pretty much locked in. Maybe right guard.
So
I don't know how fair they are with Cam Jurgens right now.
I would say that's one too. I was thinking of that. I locked in on offense. Yeah, I think those are the two most open spots. I think that's definitely a fair assessment as far as that goes. But here's the thing. I found it interesting that, again, for the second straight year, and Nolan Smith being here as well, I find it interesting for the second straight year, the Eagles have looked at their offense and said, okay, with Jalen Hurts, we'll get him again, a new toy with A.J. Brown, which is a really nice new toy. But they looked at this defense, and for the most part of last year, they invested in their defense. They said, hey, Jonathan Gannon, we're going to give you some pretty big pieces that are puzzle here. What are you going to do with them? And now you're looking at Sean Desai, who has become this, like, other than, oh, well, he's playing like Vic Fangio. Other than that, people really don't know that much about Sean Desai. So I'm really curious to see how we eventually crack the code of Sean Desai and why the Eagles find it necessary to give him all these pieces, like the first 2. You're getting 2 first-round picks. As a defensive coordinator, it's only your second crack at being a defensive coordinator. And they're like, oh, well, we got 2 first-round picks. We're going to make both those picks. We're going to make both those picks on defense. How about it, Sean Desai? Oh, and by the way, we're also going to get you another safety. That's pretty damn good. And then they're going to get a guy in Ringo who could be the steal of the draft, which is just incredible. They're going to give him another guy like that as well. So they're giving Sean Desai a lot of pieces here to say, all right, well, we're investing in whatever it is you're going to do. We think we know what you're doing. We have a good idea as fans what he's going to do. We have a good idea as media as what he's going to do. But we don't know until we see it. But the unquestionable thing is that throughout this offseason, they have mostly invested in their defense, and there's no better example of that than the first 2 picks in the first round that the Eagles made.
So what's the role for Nolan Smith, since you brought him up? What's his role this year? Where is he at? Special packages? Is he getting 20% of the snaps? Like,
I think he would get in 20. I think he'll get in 15 to 20% of the snaps. The thing we got to remember is that Brandon Graham is not playing more snaps. He is capitalizing on his opportunities. So I think as Brandon, 35 years old, and I love BG, one of my all-time favorite Philadelphia athletes ever, and I think most people of our generation, my generation, would say that same thing. But, I mean, let's face it, 35 years old, 1-year deal, same thing with Fletcher Cox when you're looking at bringing in a guy like Jalen Carter. You know, the clock's ticking. I think the role they have is in the event that the Eagles need to get that big stop. Let's just use as an example. Any stop they could have gotten in the Super Bowl in the second half, I think you're going to have a defensive coordinator that might, not necessarily by the book, by the T, run a NASCAR package. But if you want to get after the quarterback, I think you can see him out there in the NASCAR package. If you want to really groom him to be a Hassan Reddick type, you got to be careful because also you don't want to take away snaps from Josh Sweat, who really came into his own last year. But I think the role that they're going to have for Nolan Smith is what everyone's already comparing him to. If you have a guy on your team already that people are talking about the ceiling, like if you're the rookie on this team and I'm saying to you, hey, the ceiling for you in your career is that guy right over there in that locker. That's Hassan
Reddick.
Reddick.
Him every day. We hand to hand.
Exactly. You guys are best friends. You guys are besties. You're talking about movies. You're talking about where you like to get your hair cut. You're talking about where you like to go to eat. You guys are going to be besties. So no different on the football field. I think you're going to see instances here where you're going to see Hassan Reddick out on that football field. And when you're looking on the other side of the field, you're not going to see Josh Sweat. You're not going to see Brandon Graham, even though they're few and far between. You see them on the field at the same time. But you're going to see Nolan Smith out there. And I think they're going to say, all right, speedsters, go get him. Because it's hard enough to stop Hassan Reddick coming off of one edge when he got Nolan Smith coming off the other. So good luck. You might even see him line up on the same side. If you want to get creative.
That's what I'm going to say. I've seen Sean Desai a lot in Chicago. Stack edge rushers. Stack 2 of his best edge rushers on one side and put his kind of, third edge rusher to the other side. He was getting some penetration, man.
Mm-hmm. And with these guys, as quick as they are, as fast as they are, man, light the fires, kick the tires. They're going to get after.
They're not miss.
Yeah,
you better not miss.
You better not miss. Yeah.
or we're gonna be Brock Purdy and people out here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't know how far you are into your analysis. The schedule isn't out, but what do you see the ceiling? The floor for this team. We're not gonna say ceiling. The floor. What's the worst possible outcome for the next season?
Worst possible outcome? That is a gross question because you got me thinking negative. No, I think the floor is you win the division, you do great, and you get bounced in your first playoff game. Like, that would be the word. Like, to give us a season similar to last year, just in terms of the regular season, and then have it end with either a first round playoff exit, or you get the bye and you play in the second round and you lose your first playoff game. That, I think, would be the biggest tease that we could possibly have. So, I mean, the floor, and I'm not going to mention injuries because that's what it's football. They're a real thing, but nobody wants to talk about them. But it could always be worse. It could always be worse. But here's what I'm confident in. And Jalen Hurts gives me this confidence. And Howie Roseman certainly gives me this confidence as well. But with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, and looking at this team that's assembled right now, and it's really hard for me to even imagine for a second that you would have underachievers in this locker room, because I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to stand for it. I don't think Jason Kelce is going to stand for it. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Lane Johnson. I don't think anybody is going to stand for that on this. A.J. Brown has been very vocal throughout the offseason. I don't think anyone's going to be standing for underachievers. And I am amazed at the job Howie Roseman has done consistently of acquiring talent. I mean, you talk about the Super Bowl team from 5 years ago. Other than maybe the Green Bay Packers in 2010, who I think had 18 guys IR'd, and they still won the Super Bowl that year. When you talk about that, and they went up against another guy like Ben Roethlisberger, and they won that Super Bowl. When you go back like that, and you think about that roster, and then you think about the roster from 5 years ago that you won a Super Bowl with, and how deep that's potentially the deepest roster to ever win a Super Bowl. When you talk about this roster that just lost the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs, that might be the greatest starting 22 in Philadelphia Eagle history. And that's all assembled by Howie Roseman. So
would you agree this team is better than last year?
Yeah. And what? How do you not have confidence that they've put together a winner? And how do you not have confidence that the guys on this roster right now are going to hold everybody accountable and be far from the underachievers that the most pessimistic fan might think for a second they could be? I don't see that happening because of Howie and because of Jalen Hurts. The two biggest reasons why you got to believe in the Philadelphia Eagles for a long time now.
All right, last one, Mark. I know you got to get up out of here. I know you're a busy man. You've paid Jalen Hurts. We lost Miles Sanders. Do you think DeAndre Swift having one of those type of Miles Sanders seasons that Miles had last year, we will actually retain a running back and not end up in the same situation where Kenny Gainwell is our only running back again next season?
Tough question, because it depends so heavily on health. But let's say he plays every game. I think the great benefit of DeAndre Swift and the great benefit that any running back would have, Rashad Penny, Kenny Gainwell, and Miles Sanders, is Jalen Hurts is your quarterback. Remember, Mustache Man, Gardner Minshew. Remember Gardner Minshew? The whole running game, the whole dynamic was different. You think DeAndre Swift was ever lining up behind Jared Goff and be like, well, thank God I got Jared Goff here because he's going to open up some running lanes for me? Like, no. But having Jalen Hurts here, it's a totally different, pun intended, ball game. Having a quarterback that is as versatile, as dangerous, and as athletic as Jalen Hurts is. I mean, if you're running an RPO, think about the things that can open up for you, because that DN, that edge rusher, has to respect the capabilities of Jalen Hurts. So if you're DeAndre Swift, you're coming here and you're dead. Did you see him in his press conference yesterday? DeAndre Swift had a smile on his face, like he just came down for Christmas.
That in a while.
And yeah, he was like, okay, first off, I don't know if you've been to Detroit. I've been to Detroit many times.
Yes. This went like 2 years ago.
Did you? Okay. Philly's a little better than Detroit, not for nothing. So I'd just be happy to be back home in Philly if you're DeAndre Swift. And then on top of all that, oh my goodness gracious, you're going from Jared Goff as your quarterback to Jalen Hurts, and you're going from I'll bite your kneecaps off, drinking pounds of coffee a day, Dan Campbell, to a guy who's crying at the Star Spangled Banner and Nick Sirianni. I mean, that's the greatest thing. Like, you've gone to heaven if you're DeAndre Swift. Oh, and by the way, that I mentioned they're just coming off a Super Bowl. Not too bad.
Not too bad. Hey guys, it's Marc Farzetta. Like I said before, like, subscribe, comment, tune in 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Jacob Sports Media, the Farzy Show on YouTube. Hopefully I can have him back before the season start. If you ever want me on the show, I'll show up. I'll get up early in the morning, man, to make it happen, man. I'll get up.
I know there's a lot of newer people to the show because we're on the Jacob Media YouTube platform now as well. The podcast has been going well. YouTube numbers on Jacob have been going well, so it's great to see that. But we do the show live 6 to 7, but I do tape the interviews the night before. Very rarely. I think the only live guest we get 2 live guests. We get my man Dave Shaw of UK Phillies. We get him from England. He does the show live because whatever it is, what is it, like 6 or
like midday at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, 11 o'clock in the morning over there. He's fine. He juts out of work for like 15 minutes, talks to me. It's great. And then the other is former Flyer Riley Cote, who's got a great podcast. If you're a hockey fan, I'll go ahead and plug it if you don't mind. Nasty Knuckles podcast. He does it at 6 a.m. because he gets up at like 5:30 and does yoga. God bless him.
I gotta tune in. Send me the link to that on Twitter, man. I'm gonna tune in. I'm gonna see what he's talking about.
All
hey,
right.
man, it's been great having you, man. I'll be reaching out again. Trust me.
Anytime, Smitty. Thanks for hitting me up, brother.
Appreciate it, brother. Yo, Philly fam, that was a great show, man. I appreciate y'all for coming out, man. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll be back with more. Appreciate it.